I'm Raven Waterman, and you're listening to Lead, Inspire, Grow with Raven Waterman. On this show, you'll hear strategies and tips that will help you to improve your emotional health and your professional development. If you're ready to become the leader you were meant to be, get inspired, and keep growing, then you're in the right place. So I am so excited for this episode of Lead, Inspire, Grow. I have a wonderful guest on with me today, Elsa W. Smith, and we're going to be talking about some really, really key topics. But first, I want to kind of just share a little bit about Elsa. She is the founder and principal of the law offices of Elsa W. Smith, LLC. Elsa focuses her practice on wills and estate planning. She counsels individuals, families, and business owners in the creation of wills, trusts, powers of attorney, and advance directives. She has over 20 years of experience as an attorney. She's also a native Spanish speaker of Afro-Cuban descent and holds a Bachelor of Business Administration and Juris Doctorate from the University of Miami. Elsa's licensed in Maryland and also the District of Columbia. And so she's joining me today, and we're going to be talking about why estate planning is so important for women, and also things that women should consider at different stages of their life when it comes to estate planning. But I want to give you a chance, Elsa, to say hello and tell us a little bit more about you.
Well, Raven, first of all, thank you so much for having me as a guest on your show and to speak to your audience. It's definitely a pleasure. What motivates me, what inspires me to do what I do in estate planning is the women that I serve. And in fact, the mission of my law firm, the law offices of Elsa W. Smith, is to empower women through estate planning. That is our guiding motivation. And why is it? I'm sure that we'll get into that more in depth throughout the interview. But my firm is based in Annapolis, Maryland. But we serve individuals throughout the state of Maryland, thanks to the wonders of technology. As I said, the focus is on women, but we serve men as well. And it's funny because women find me, and if they're married, the spouses usually follow suit. So it's usually the women are the ones that are taking the initial steps to say, honey, look, we've got to get our house in order. Mm-hmm. So that's one of the things that that propels me, that guides me and inspires me to do what I do, because I'm changing lives. And I see that like one woman, one family at a time. And most of my cases, I'm blessed that most of my cases are through referrals. There are people that have benefited from the services that we offer, and other professionals in the area trust us enough with their clients, and they make referrals to our firm as well.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest testimonials, I think, when you're in business, when people want to bring their friends or their family to you and want to refer people to you. That just speaks to the level of support that they've received from you and confidence that they have. Because nobody wants to be the person that, sets somebody up with like a dud, right? You want to be the person who's like, yeah, my person really hooked them up and helped them out. So they have to have a lot of confidence in you if they're doing that. So that's fantastic. And it sounds like, women are kind of leading the charge and getting themselves and their families into the door to talk with you. So that's pretty great. Why don't we talk to me? Can you just explain what is estate planning? What does that actually mean?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that question. And in all of my webinars and other presentations, I start off with that question because a lot of people, you stop a woman on the street, like, what is estate planning? And people have no idea. Estate planning is essentially, it's creating a strategy for the quality of life that you want to have while you're still alive. Okay, so in case of incapacity, as well as a plan for your assets when you die. That is the most simplistic explanation that I can offer. We do that in the estate planning world through a number of tools, wills, trusts, powers of attorney, medical directives, and so forth. But essentially, it's having a strategy. It's having, putting some intention behind what you want your legacy to be. You're not just leaving it to chance. And one thing that this expression came to me. I don't know if I've heard it somewhere or not, but people like to credit me with this. I say that estate planning is a love letter to your family. You thought enough of your spouse, your partner, children, charities that mean something to you, to put something on paper, to say, this is what I want to leave to you. This is the legacy that I want to leave. And you don't want to leave them in a state of chaos, because they're already, from, a very human aspect, they're still going to be mourning. They're going to be grieving. And you don't want to add a layer of confusion. And people that do have estate plans in place minimize that greatly. And we don't appreciate, obviously, because we're not here, but people don't appreciate just what that means, that level of comfort, and knowing that, okay, there's a plan in place. Everything is not going to fall apart. I know what to do when, my loved one is in the hospital, intubated and unconscious. I know who's going to be taking care of the bills so that the house doesn't go into foreclosure. Okay, because those are very real things that people need to worry about. If you are a female, you're a business owner, employees still need to get paid. Your business still needs to keep operating. Who are you putting in place? A person of trust, of course, who is going to be able to manage those things during that temporary period. We hope that you are, that you are in the hospital or otherwise incapacitated.
I love that. So a love letter to your family. It's, people, of course, don't think about this topic in any sort of romantic way, but I think what you're talking about is how you really are doing this, not just for yourself, but then also for the people in your life, and sort of helping them to not be so overwhelmed and stressed at a time where there's any sort of health crisis, or that automatically is going to be stressful. And somebody passes, that's automatically going to be, there's grief, right? And so just kind of showing them that you've already thought about this, you've already put some things in place. I think that is that is a beautiful way to show love and care and compassion, not only for yourself, but then also for your loved ones, the people in your life, right? Who are going to be tasked with kind of figuring so many things out as it is. Yeah. And, when we say the word estate, I think sometimes people think about, oh, well, I don't have an estate, right? I'm not a millionaire. I don't have an estate. I'm working a regular 9-to-5 job where, I'm a therapist. I don't, right? Why would I need that? So can you just talk a little bit more about that?
Absolutely.
I think that's a myth. Yeah.
Yeah. And we want to demystify all of this. An estate is your stuff. It is everything that you own. It is your bank accounts, your jewelry, your clothes, your shoe collection, for my female friends who have extensive shoe collections. It's art collections. It's the assets that you have on social media, all those photos, the hundreds and hundreds of photos that you save on social media. For my creatives, your books, published works, all of those are part of your estate. So everyone has an estate. It's just a matter of size, but everyone has an estate that deserves to be protected.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you. I made the comment about therapists, but one of the things that we do have to consider is who will be our proxy if we're not able to, notify our clients, right, that something has happened to us. So who will be that, we really have to designate another therapist as well that will carry out notifying and making sure that, records are handled appropriately. So, I mean, even something like that is you really need to give good consideration to that and to have a plan.
Absolutely. And it's funny that you mentioned a therapist. I assisted a former client of mine who is in the therapeutic therapy space launch her business. And that's one of the things that we discussed. And for therapists and those in your world, there are particular forms that need to be created to, as you said, put that trusted person in place to, you're dealing with sensitive, confidential client information. So you definitely need to have a strategy for that. And as well, as you said, notifying clients and letting them know as soon as possible that their information is still going to be protected, and then what the next steps are, whether it's just it's a dissolution of the practice or moving that case to another trusted professional. But those are the sorts of things that need to be in writing.
Yeah. Great. Thank you. How did you decide? What inspired you to focus on estate planning in your practice?
It's really it part of it was when I realized what it did for me. Like when I got married, my husband and I, we did our estate plans, but I didn't go into estate planning right away. And this is what I tell people. It's like I had that feeling of, empowerment and so forth. And I didn't do anything with it. I just remember what it was like to, have my portfolio in front of me and going, wow, this is, everything is going to be protected. So I'm good. I started when I launched my practice in Maryland. I was doing other things, not estate planning. And it wasn't until I wanted, a change in my quality of life. I wanted to improve my quality of life because the area of law that I was practicing in was very taxing on me. So I was practicing a lot of self-care, but I still had this burning desire to serve, and I wanted to use my legal knowledge to do so. So I took some classes, talked to some folks, and estate planning emerged as something that I can do on a large scale and really see the impact in, the clients' lives. So I decided to do that, taking more classes, more continuing legal education to, hone my craft. But then something else happened. Like while I was learning, the basics of estate planning, I said, wow, there aren't a lot of people in this space that look like me. Mm-hmm. And, it's just like old white male. Mm-hmm. That's what I saw. Mm-hmm. And I said, wow, there's a real opportunity here to make a difference, to have and really speak to women and women of color, to let them know this is for you. Estate planning is for you too. Because like with all marketing, people relate to what they see in an ad. And if they can't see themselves in an ad, they're not going to make the connection that estate planning is for them. And so I said, okay, here's an opportunity. And then, one by one, I started reaching out to women, and then those women started connecting me to organizations that they belong to, because they're like, this is good stuff. Other women need to know about this. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And it happened very organically, and it was a beautiful thing. And I had that aha. I'm like, this is what I need to be doing. I need to be empowering women through estate planning. I kid you not, that's how it happened. And, it's like, I'm a person of faith. So like God just gave me these signs, these whispers, because when the big things happen in your life or major decisions, if you're listening to God, it's usually a whisper.
Mm.
That's how it'll first start out.
Mhm.
And then you'll start seeing things manifest, people that normally wouldn't come across your path, all of a sudden offering opportunities to help and to give you platforms to reach more people. But meanwhile, you're just staying true to the mission, staying humble, staying in a heart of service, staying in that space and with a mission to educate and empower. And Raven, I kid you not, just as I keep doing this, the opportunities continue. People are getting it. They're listening. Women are responding. And, I talk to people like, what's your legacy? I'm like, this is a part of mine. I'm doing it every single day that I get to help someone. Every time I speak, on platforms like this that you've so graciously invited me to appear on, that's part of my legacy.
Right. And wow, thank you for sharing that. I feel like that's so relatable in terms of, we're all sort of on this career path, or and as you're going, you're still trying to figure it out. You're still trying to figure out, like, is this really where I want to be? Is this where I can have the biggest impact? But sometimes it's almost like an experience you have that's that first kind of like, oh, wait a minute, okay, and you don't always pursue it right away. Like you said, it doesn't always automatically happen where you're like, oh yes, that's it, that's the direction, right? But that slow kind of build up of the signs over here, door opening over there, conversation over here. And I think a part of it is you know having that faith and also being willing to step out into that and know that, well, I'm going to be okay. Like there's going to be parts of this that may come very easily to me, and there may be parts of this that are going to be somewhat challenging to me, but I'm going to be okay, right? I'm going to be okay. And I think of one of the biggest barriers sometimes is really overcoming our own kind of inner critic, our own sense of, can I really do this? Is this really for me? And once you break through that, and you just start walking through the doors, you just start, just taking on kind of the next challenge and the next challenge. And it leads you to sometimes such an amazing place where you're having a real impact. And I think that's what a lot of us want to have. We want to have a real impact, right? We really want to be able to step back and say, I know that what I'm doing is meaningful, and I can see it. All right, I can see the fruit of that. And so, you run your own law office, your own practice, and so before we circle back and talk a little bit more about estate planning, if you could share, what are one or two significant lessons you've learned in running your own business?
Yes. Entrepreneurship is not for the faint of heart. We've heard that before, but it is so true. Two of the things that I've learned is that you need a team in order to get ahead and to grow. There's no question. This is a team effort. I have people, and companies that support the business. I have a legal assistant, client success coordinator. I have a law clerk, a paralegal. I have people that do my bookkeeping. I have people that do my payroll. It's because you need a team in order to give you the freedom. My happy space, my sweet spot is doing this right now. It's going out, speaking, educating. I wouldn't have the time to do that if I had to be locked up in a room doing payroll and bookkeeping and so forth. So you bring the resources to you to give you the freedom to do what it is that I believe that I'm called to do. So that's the one thing. First of all, you need a team. And the second thing is, don't be afraid to bring people into your circle who know more than you.
Ooh. Oh, I like that.
Yeah, that is humbling, but that is essential. I personally have learned that, I want people, I need people that are just good at what they do. My client success coordinator, in her prior employment, she was in very much a front facing, like, client service space. So a lot of those skills translate into what she's doing now, and she's able to connect with people and just be sensitive and really listen. There's some things that you can't teach. There's some people that just have it. And to, you just have to make room for them and then let them go. Don't try to micromanage them. If you know they're in their sweet spot, let them go, let them grow, let them shine. So that's what I've learned. And that's also I've found that to be the case in organizations that I belong to. Because, frankly, if you're the smartest person in the room, you need to go to another room, and for that too. So those are two big things.
Yeah, that's great. And I so agree. I think they apply whether you're working in an organization, or whether you're running your own business, that you need it, surrounding yourself, having a team is really going to make you more efficient and more effective and allow you to really be doing the things that you're best suited to do. It'll give you that time to really keep honing your skills. And also, don't be afraid of having people around you who are smarter than you, or who have a different type or a different level of expertise than you. Be willing to learn and be inspired by them. Don't feel like, oh, I'm threatened if I don't take up all the oxygen in the room. So I think those are great examples. Thank you. So just going back to the importance of estate planning for women, if you could talk about, why do you see that being so important for women in particular?
Well, I mean, I'll just, when I address this in my presentations, I usually start off with like stats. The fact is, I believe it's the World Health Organization has stats that women outlive men by an average of 5 years. So we're outliving men. Women are, we're particularly women of color, we are marrying later in life. We just statistically experiencing divorce at higher rates. As women generally, we not only, because we're living longer, we're not only, inheriting what spouses leave us, but in some cases, we're also beneficiaries of legacies from parents or maybe grandparents. So you're getting, two sources of income through those means. So you need to have a strategy to manage all that. The other thing is many custodial parents are women. Okay. And also there are millions of businesses that are owned by women of color, women of generally, yes, but women of color specifically. So for those reasons, primarily, women need to have a strategy. We can't just, throw caution to the wind and kind of say, well, my family will figure it out, or my business partners will somehow figure it out. No. We need to, have that agency and say, no, I am going to craft a plan. I'm going to consult with experts because I know that I don't know everything. So I'm going to consult with people that do, that have that expertise to help get me where I need to go. So that's what I want women to realize, that, you don't need to have a JD and specialize in estate planning in order to get your estate plan done. You just need to realize that there are things that need protection. You need to be protected. Before we even start talking about anybody else, your quality of life, what kind of life do you want to have? Do you want to, walk tall and know and be confident that your matters are taken care of? Because it does taken it does manifest itself, in how you conduct yourself, once, you're handling your business. Right.
Yeah.
So that manifests itself in different ways, but you don't need to know everything. Just know that you do need help, and then take actions to get the help that you need.
Yeah. Thank you. And you mentioned a couple of different stages that women can be in. So you talked to, the woman who's single, maybe the woman who's married. I want to throw in, maybe somebody who's like in a career transition, right? But like, if you had to give some examples of like any specific considerations at different stages, do you think there's anything that people should think about?
Absolutely. As single women, and there are plenty of single professional women that I serve, and some of them say, well, I'm single, so I've got no one to leave anything to. I don't need an estate plan. Oh, no. You have charities, organizations that you have worked with. You have, even though you don't have kids of your own, many have nieces, nephews, other people that they want to be a blessing to. So there's always room to be a blessing. And that's how I characterize it, because that's what you're doing. You're making an impact. You definitely, as a single woman, you need protection in case of incapacity, because especially if it's your business and if it's just you and team members, you need to think about disability insurance. You need to think about, who are you grooming to be that number two, to use a Star Trek reference, and number one, number two, who is that person that will step in the gap, will stand in the gap if you can't manage things in the office. To women who are considering going into marriage, because that's another, like transition right there. What are you bringing into the marriage? What is your spouse bringing into the marriage? The good, the bad, the ugly. It's not just the assets, but also the liabilities, the debts, and so forth. What are and having those conversations? How, let's say if your spouse has children from another marriage, how is that going to affect how your assets are distributed? Do you want anything to go to his children? Does he want anything to go to your children from a prior relationship? Those intrafamily dynamics all need to be taken in consideration. And with respect to a business, there is what's called business succession planning. We've been talking about it, throughout this interview. It's just like having a plan. Who's in place, who you're going to put in place. All that is succession planning. When you die, do you want to sell the business? Do you want to have someone in your family take over the business? You may own a pizza parlor, but your kids may hate pizza and don't want anything to do with pizza. So in that case, what's the plan? You want to just sell it and just move to Florida and retire? But that's all part of succession planning. So, which is a part of, estate planning. Who do you want to be the decision makers? And this is, I keep going to this point because a lot of times, especially the higher we go as professional women, it gets a lot lonelier. And your circle of trusted advisors gets smaller and smaller and smaller, and it can get kind of lonely. So when I, turn to, Madam CEO and say, who do you trust to make decisions for you, to tell the doctors that, it's time to discontinue life-sustaining treatment or not, then, it's a moment of pause. Because you may know a lot of people, but it's a matter of who you trust. That is key. And the truth is, like, no matter whether you're, a high performing like CEO, female CEO, or, whether you're a stay-at-home mom, maybe you're transitioning, maybe you were in a corporate space, but you decided to take a break to a break, that's another transition to another job to raise children. You know, she also needs an estate plan. You know, it's not just for people who are working and so forth, but she also needs an estate plan because it's hard. You know, and she has, particularly if she has minor children, who does she want to be guardians of those children if she passes away? You know, and particularly if, say, the biological father has has passed away, or his rights were terminated for some reason, and there is legally no one else, it's even more important for you to identify in writing who do you want to care for the money and for the welfare of these minor children.
Yeah.
And not just say, well, grandma will do it. Well, you know what? Grandma is like 90, plus. Okay. And grandma may have her own health issues. And grandma, frankly, she probably doesn't want to raise, go through the whole.
She's like, I'm 90. I've done that. Already. I'm done.
Grandma enjoy this stage of her life. Granted, with all due respect, I know that there's some situations where that can be avoided. But when you have the choice, be mindful of that. If you have preteens that are going into their tweens, have somebody, think of someone that, first of all, has the morals and the character that you want modeled for your children, right? Who do you want to step into your shoes when you are no longer there? Are they gainfully employed? Are they going to be able to provide a wholesome environment for your children? Don't assign someone who travels for work. One week they could be in Albuquerque, the next minute they're in Tokyo because of their job. That might not be the ideal person. You need someone with some sort of stability and so forth. And those are some of the many considerations that women with minor children need to think about when thinking of a guardian.
I just want to add in, I know we probably have all seen the romantic comedies where, suddenly people are told, oh, you're going to be raising your best friend's children. And it's like this, and they find their way and then they find romance. And I just want to say, like, in the real world, we probably also want to have those conversations with people. So whether it's grandma or whether it's, your best friend or whomever, like, I'm going to assume that we probably should have that conversation with the person to, like you said, make sure that, does this fit in their lifestyle as well? Is this something that they feel that they can do? And so I think it also can create that opportunity to really, and I know some people who might be uncomfortable with even talking about this, but at the end of the day, this, again, like you said in the beginning, can avoid so much heartache and confusion and turmoil and chaos. And so I would just throw that in there. Would you say that that's something that's important to consider too?
Absolutely, Raven. Ask people, it's just out of respect. They shouldn't be blindsided by the fact that, oh, great, now I'm like raising like 3 10-year-olds, like, wait a minute. One of the things that I hope to do with my practice is what I call changing the generational narrative. And how do we do that? Well, first of all, what am I talking about? I'm talking about going from generations past that had no estate planning, just kind of left it to chance. The family, the church will somehow, figure things out. Meanwhile, while you're on the other side of, of heaven or whatever, and everybody's down here like scrambling, that's your last chapter. You may have been a wonderful person and so forth, but you were a hot mess because you didn't leave a blueprint for people to take care of things the way they need to be taken care of. So I want to change that to a paradigm where there is planning, where young children are accustomed to seeing their parents consult with professionals, even when they don't understand exactly what's going on, the fact that they're taking those actions and consulting, it normalizes it for them, that they consult with experts like yourself, like myself, CPAs and other people that are necessary in order to make this thing called life not be so overwhelming. So they see that example. So when they're old enough to get into the workforce, mom and or dad can say, you know what, Susie, you're now 18, you're 17, you're going off to college. We need to make sure that you have, an advance directive in place, because you're going to be in college across the country. And if something happens to you, now you're not a child anymore. And I'm not going to have access to your medical records. Right. And the reason is because as adults, we have, those HIPAA privacy laws that protect our medical records from disclosure. And your mom can't just walk into the doctor's office going, well, let me see Susie's medical record. I'm sorry, ma'am, Susie's now an adult. Even though you're mom, I need to have authorization from Susie, but wait, but Susie's now unconscious.
Yeah,
right.
Wow. Yeah.
And in college. So those are some of the realities. So it's changing that. And the other thing, Raven, is bringing back, and I know this in our society, people are just like, they're on Zoom, kids are in the room playing video games, but bringing back dinner table conversations about what's going on in the family, and as appropriate, talking about estate planning, talking about what do we want, to happen. First of all, if it's a marriage, within the spouse, between the spouses, and then bringing the kids in to the extent that they're ready and able to understand what's going on, but normalizing it at the dinner table. That's my hope, that we can start to do that, so that they're not foreign concepts to us, but particularly people in our communities.
Yeah, thank you. Wow, you gave me so many things to think about. I'm sitting here making a mental list like, I need to do that. I need to do that. I need to do that. So thank you. That's so powerful. So, you really told us so much about what estate planning is, why it's so important for women to do, different things to consider depending on kind of like what's happening in your life, but that estate planning is for everybody. It's not just for the CEO or the millionaire, right? And so if anybody who's listening to this was sort of like, okay, now what? What is sort of like a good next step? They've never done anything. This is the first time they're thinking about it. What could be a good, like, okay, now go do this to get started?
Well, one of the things that I tell a lot of the women who listen and follow me is that I want to get them from chaos and, overwhelmed to a position of empowerment. So how do we do that? Education is a good first step. There are many free videos online, and particularly my YouTube channel at Elsa W Smith Law. There's a library of videos that I've done myself and of interviews that I've had with experts, and we talk about estate planning concepts, and they're all free. You can listen to them whenever you want. Also, read blog articles on just basic concepts. Don't try to overwhelm, yourself, but just get familiar. And I think that's a good start. And so by the time that you meet with someone like me, again, I said that you don't need to be an expert in estate planning, but it does make you more comfortable, more in asking more intelligent questions about the things that you need or maybe are considering when you're meeting with me. And then my job as the estate planning attorney is to explain those concepts more in depth, to make them digestible, understandable, and to make you feel, that, yeah, this is for you. Right. one, if I may, one of the resources that I have online, one of the most recent resources that I have is my estate planning jumpstart guide. And in 7 easy steps, you can, get on the path to doing your estate plan. And it's particularly, in this first quarter of the new year, people are, making resolutions and doing all these things. This is one easy way. It's a roadmap to get you from A to B. And I can either do it now. You can go.
Please tell us how to find it, and we'll definitely link to it in the show notes and on my website. Yeah, please.
Absolutely. You can go to my website at elsawsmithlaw.com. Go to the resources tab, and in the drop down, you'll find the Jumpstart Guide, and just provide us your information, and immediately you'll get the guide. But that's an example of a free resource. One of the things, and I want to make sure that we touch on this, because we talked around it, but this is important: the different stages of life and when estate planning comes into play. In my world, they're like the 5 Ds that we call them. Every decade, although I actually recommend that estate plans be reviewed even sooner than that. But every decade, when there's a death, obviously not yours, but someone in your circle, a loved one, when there's a death, when there's divorce, and we've talked about that earlier. If you have a diagnosis, particularly of a serious health condition, and decline. So those are the 5 Ds: decade, death, divorce, diagnosis, and decline. Mental decline. Some of us sadly are, diagnosed with, so that's like the diagnosis, but there's also the decline, the manifestation of that. And we start seeing it. We don't, loss of memory. The recall isn't quite there. So when you know that, hopefully you've done it already. But if at no other time, when you realize I'm just not myself, you really need to take stock and say, okay, I really need to get something in place. Aside from the 5 Ds, there's also when there's a new birth or maybe an adoption. That's definitely a cause for updating or creating an estate plan. And, if you've come into, if you've either purchased a property on your own, or maybe you inherited a piece of property, right? And that's adds significantly to your estate, to the basket of stuff that you have. That's also a cause for getting an estate plan done, because there's, all these new factors like in your life. Your estate plan should not be like a set it and forget it. It's not like the Ronco, convection oven or whatever. It evolves with every stage of your life. So you can have an estate plan when in your 20s, you're starting in the workforce, you're and you're single, and maybe let's say you don't decide to get married until maybe your mid 30s, 40s, and so forth. Okay, now there's a spouse. There's another change. You've purchased a property. Therein lies another change. You've welcomed a child into the family, yet another change. The child is going off to college. Other changes. You and your spouse, if same spouse or new spouse, what have you, you're growing older. Now you're thinking of retirement, yet another change. Right?
Beautiful. Yeah.
So it should evolve as you do.
Right. Wonderful. Thank you. So everybody needs to get to your site and download. Tell us the name of it again.
Absolutely. The website is Elsa, ELSA Smithlaw.com. The guide is the Estate Planning Jumpstart Guide. And you can go to the website and go into the resources tab, and you'll see it and some other resources that are free and available for you as well. And that'll also link you to the YouTube channel, where there's a library of free videos. So really the website is is the hub.
Great. Thank you so much. This is why I love these conversations and having guests like you, Elsa, on the show. You just share so much about your own journey, which I think is inspirational, and just also about the work that you're doing and how that, I mean, the impact that can have and does have. So thank you so much for being on and for, talking with us today.
Thank you. It's really been a pleasure. And for anyone who's, because I'm licensed in Maryland and the District of Columbia, for those that want to just have a conversation, no judgment. I make it a point to make my conversations a safe space for people to really share what their fears, their concerns, what their hopes are. And my job is to create a plan to make those hopes and dreams a reality and give you a plan that's going to make you more empowered at the end of the process. So, at the law offices of Elsa W. Smith, that's what we aim to do. That's the mission. And that is part of my legacy.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thanks for listening to Lead, Inspire, Grow with Raven Waterman. If you enjoyed the show, share it with your friends. And don't forget to subscribe on your podcast platform of choice. A 5-star review is always appreciated. See you next week.